I'm so glad you joined me for Navigate, the podcast that explores the ups and downs of life's uncertain moments and how we can stay more grounded, confident, and clear through life and ministry transitions. And I'm your host, Tim Austin, and today we'll be exploring the significance of what I call anchor points and how they can help us find stability in the winds and the waves of change. Transitions, we know, are a natural part of life. They often come unexpectedly and can leave us feeling lost and unsure of where we stand. And the steadiness and stability we once knew can seem like a distant memory. But what if there is a way to navigate these uncertain times with more confidence and clarity? And that's where anchor points come in. Anchor points are the intentional actions and routines we establish to create a sense of stability in the midst of the messiness and uncertainty of change. They center really around rhythms of rest, routines, and relationships. And they help us steward our time and our opportunities for overall emotional, physical, and spiritual wholeness and health. So, you're going through transition and you feel like you're drifting without a compass. Just to say, that's normal. But, during these times, nothing feels the same. Nothing seems the same. There's so much uncertainty. And this is where the concept of anchor points has proven to be extremely helpful to myself and fellow travelers. You might think of them as routines, rhythms, habits, or non-negotiables. They provide us with a stable foundation while allowing for necessary flexibility. And I want to emphasize that in transition, being so unpredictable, we do need that flexibility as we navigate the change. So imagine transition as the charted course and the anchor points as pauses, stops, or excursions along the way. It's kind of like pulling up an anchor, rowing your boat to a new spot, and anchoring down once again. And transitions are by nature unpredictable, so our routines may get disrupted, and I shouldn't say they may get disrupted, they will get disrupted, but that doesn't mean we should give up on them altogether. Instead, we adapt to situations and we tweak those rhythms and routines where we can. And we embrace the grace of do-overs and second chances. Yes, God gives us do-overs and second chances. So guilting ourselves over missed opportunities or failing to maintain spiritual rhythms that are important to us and other non-negotiables does us no good. If there's any season of life that we need to experience this God of grace and extend the same grace to ourselves is during messy transitions. Anchor points also remind us that we are more than the changes that take place around us. They anchor us in our true identity and purpose, even in the midst of all the challenges of transitions. Who we are in Christ, who you are in Christ, who I am in Christ is more important than roles and titles and reputation. All those things can be stripped away in transition. And when we embrace that part of who we are in transition, that, my friends, is a powerful, stabilizing, grounding force. So, let's look at how we can establish some of these anchor points in transition seasons. Let's explore a few practical ways. First, focus on what you can do instead of what you can't. It's just plain defeating to set ourselves up for disappointment by holding on to unrealistic expectations. Transitions often bring limitations and reduced capacity, but they also offer creative opportunities to explore new ideas and practices. Embracing out-of-the-box thinking. What could that look like? Establishing new anchor points that suit the current season and all the unpredictability and uncertainty that goes with that. And that could mean reducing or hitting the pause button on certain activities, but it can also mean experimenting with new activities, creating something new. Transitions can be a perfect time to try new things. So what's one new routine, rhythm, or even a hobby you'd like to try out? Who knows, it may function as a temporary stopgap to help you keep your sanity through the change, or it could even develop into a more permanent, life-giving thing that you do on the other side of transition. Secondly, reflect and re-anchor regularly. Priorities tend to shift more frequently in times of transition, which can lead to drifting and feeling lost in the sea of options, and that can lead to decision fatigue. So pause and reorder your priorities prayerfully and regularly. Consider something that I like to do, and I'll share with you a link in a moment, or in the show notes, I'll share a link with you, but consider implementing a weekly reflection point where you ask yourself key questions to realign your focus and prayerfully discern and decide what matters most. And I like to do this weekly on Fridays, a practice which helps me celebrate wins and get perspective on the past week, get into a weekend mindset, and then prepare for the following week. It's both a prayerful and practical time. And in the show notes, I've included a link for a free downloadable resource that can serve as a catalyst for these times. Finally, focus on being, not just doing. During prolonged holding patterns, it's really easy to feel lost without the roles and titles that defined us previously. And there may not be a whole lot to do, actually. And that's where the rub comes in. That's the sticky point, because we're used to doing, right? We're used to knowing what to do. Following 20 years of life overseas and facing a big transition, I faced an identity struggle. Who was I apart from the roles and the titles that defined me all those years? By focusing on God's invitation to be with Him and to define myself in new ways based on my relationship to Him, I was able to let go of a false sense of identity and become more anchored in what really matters. So let me encourage you to embrace God's invitation to be with Him and find new ways to define yourself based on your relationship with Him. And this shift in perspective can lead to a deeper sense of grounding and purpose when everything else around us seems to be shifting. Remember, it's quite normal, it's quite okay to experience some drift during transitions, but with anchor points, you can find your way back to stability. And these non-negotiables, these intentional rhythms of rest, routines, and relationships will build resilience and help you weather the storm of change. So as we wrap up this episode, I encourage you to reflect on the anchor points in your life that have helped you navigate transitions. What are some routines and rhythms that could further anchor you during this uncertain season? And one way to do this is by creating a simple mind map of all the potential anchor points you can think of. I've included another link to a mind map template in the show notes. Take that mind map out, call the big circle in the middle anchor points, and then in all the smaller circles, brainstorm all the potential ways you could stay more grounded and healthy in transition. Anything goes here, no wrong answers. If you need to add more circles to the mind map, then step back and look at the list. Which options rise to the surface? What could it look like to build them into your week? What could it look like to build them into a regular routine of rhythms of rest? Could you even calendarize them? If you're in a season of realignment or think you might be, reach out to me at encompasslifecoaching.com to learn more about the coaching packages I offer and to engage in a season of transitions coaching. Also, my signature 3D Transitions group coaching journey begins August 17th. I'd love for you to join me. Check it out on my website or go directly to the offer using the link in the show notes. And if you've enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. And remember, even in the midst of change, you can find stability through intentional anchor points. That's a wrap for this episode of Navigate. I've been your host, Tim Austin, and if you appreciate these conversations, do me a favor by giving us a shout out on social media and giving us a quick review on your favorite podcast listening platform, and that would help a ton. And I'll catch you next time.